So now we're ready to try creating our own texture brush. I've shown you how to use textures in the blend modes, and I've shown you where to find the texture brushes in Procreate and how to use the images they already provide. So now let's get started on creating our own texture brush. The first thing we're going to need is a picture of some texture. So go ahead and take a picture of anything you want. I took a picture of the back of my couch. It's a microfiber fabric, and we're going to create a texture out of it. The next thing you're going to need is a way to turn your picture into a black and white picture. So what I use on the iPad is the app called Snapseed. You can get it at the App Store and it's a free app. And I'm going to show you here the way that I use it. Of course, there's lots of other ways you can do this and lots of other apps, but this one works for me, so I'm going to show you my method. So making sure that the picture we take is on our camera roll, we go ahead and open the Snapseed app. Tap anywhere to open a photo and a window will pop up. Choose Open from Device, or you'll see your picture sitting right there, and you just choose it. Now that we have the picture open in the Snapseed, we go down to the pencil icon on the bottom right, and we're going to edit. When the tool window pops up, you want to choose Tune Image, which is the first one on the top left. All you have to do is select it, and a window will pop up. You want to adjust the picture, so pick the one on the left that says Adjust. A window will now pop up and give you some selections to choose from. You want to slide it down and start with Contrast. Once you have Contrast selected, you'll notice at the top there's a slider bar. You're going to take the contrast up to the very top, so it says plus 100, by sliding your finger across the screen. Go back down and choose Adjust. Our window pops up. We're going to slide it down to Saturation. Slide our finger all the way to the left and choose minus 100 for saturation. Again, we're going to go back to Adjust, and this time we're going to go down, we're going to skip down and choose Highlights. We're going to slide Highlights all the way down to minus 100, so slide your finger to the left, and then we go back into Adjust and go to Shadows. Shadows you can kind of play with. Sometimes you need to do something with it and sometimes you don't, but I'm looking for the most contrast I can find in the texture. We want this texture picture to have a very black and white look to it. Use your own judgment. You're going for that black and white look. Now we're going to go back into Tools, and I want to crop the image because I don't want this lower portion that's kind of blacked out. So I'm going to go back up and I'm going to crop into just the top portion of this, and I'm going to make sure I get as much detailed texture as possible. I don't want any sections that are pure white or pure black, so I'm looking for the most contrast with the most texture. Once I've decided on the area I want, I choose the check mark in the bottom right corner, and now I want to save in the top right corner, and I'm going to choose the export option, and it's going to export it into my camera roll. And now we make our brush. So into Procreate we go, and we're going to go into our brushes, go into the location where we want this brush to be. Open up the folder, and you're going to hit the plus sign, end up with a new untitled brush. Now, just as I showed you previously, we're going to create our brush, but I'm going to choose the shape out of our Pro library. So the shape of the brush, I'm going to choose just this ink sponge. And then for the grain source, I'm going to go into my camera roll and pull out that new black and white texture that I created in Snapseed. Choose Photos, Camera Roll, and it should be the first one that pops up in the corner, because it was the last one that you saved on your camera roll. Now we have the shape source and a grain source. You can create your own shape source, but they have so many, I just use theirs. And now we can go back and check out all the settings. So I'm going to start with the stroke, and I'm going to work with the spacing, and I can just move that lever back and forth. I want this to ultimately create an overall texture, so I don't want too much of a gap between them, so my spacing is going to be pretty slim, but not so much that it creates a thick black line. I'm just going to work my way through the settings the way that I did in the previous lesson, playing with the scatter, the rotation, just to see how much it can change up the look. Keeping in mind that I want this to be an overall texture, and I don't want it to have too much of a coarse grain, but I don't want it to be blurred out either. So once I've made up my mind, I'm going to go in and make sure that my brush settings are large, and I'm just going to try it with a color and see if it gives me the look that I'm looking for. So play around with this, change the brush sizes, see what kind of a look that you can get from it. If you want to change some of the settings, just go back into the brush itself. My size limit I want to move up slightly because, again, I want it to be an overall texture, so I want my largest brush size to be quite large. Much happier with that. And if you want some of that texture, sometimes instead of swiping it across the canvas, you just dab it. and then you don't get any kind of a blur to your stroke. So I'm pretty happy with this. I think let's go try it in our design.